Welcome to the Smart Fix podcast, where smart guys fix more than just problems.
We're your hosts, Alex and Chance. We're building something bigger than a business. We're building a better way to grow, lead, and break through the plateaus that hold service businesses back.
This isn't theory, it's a front row seat to our journey, the late nights, the learning curves, and the wins worth chasing.
If you're tired of feeling stuck and ready to outsmart the grind, you're in the right place.
This is the Smart Fix podcast. Let's get to work.
So let's talk about hiring. I feel like it's obviously a very important aspect of every business. I know I've learned a crap ton about it. I know that you've learned an insane amount too. Mine's more relevant because it's like I just learned it this week. I learned it last week. I've consistently grown in it. But what do you? What are your thoughts
on hiring?
Yeah.
Hiring is one of like the biggest levers you can pull within your business to grow it. Because like what we talked about in our last podcast, when you're a service-based business, you are selling the talent of your employees. Like it's not a product that you can just manufacture time and time again. You're selling the time of your employees. And if you have bad employees, you don't have a service to sell. If you have employees that don't show up, if you have employees that actually can't perform the job without your direct oversight and you fixing their issues, like you don't have a business. And that's where, because a lot of business owners in the trades, right, they don't have a lot of professional experience. And so when they hire, they kind of hire for like the cheapest guy or just the first guy that they have. Yeah, right. So, sounds very familiar.
Yeah.
And then they just get into this perpetual cycle of like, this guy was terrible, this guy was terrible, this guy was terrible. And then a lot of people, unfortunately, just come to the conclusion, and maybe this is you out there, where you've tried hiring people and you're like, it doesn't work. Everybody's terrible. Nobody wants to work. And if they do want to work, they want way too much money. And so I'm just going to do everything myself. And so, I have some very strong opinions on hiring, because it's one of those things that so many people get wrong because it's so hard. And it's not even taught in like an MBA setting. Like even if you have an MBA, awesome. You were not taught how to hire properly. I guarantee you. And so, you said that you've been learning a lot recently and hiring a lot of people. How many people have you hired recently?
Recently, I mean, the past 2 weeks, 7
people in 2 weeks.
Yeah. We had the original team of 5 technicians that did okay jobs. We realized real quickly that they were all okay. And okay was fine for me because I was focused on other things like selling and like the new software and the new CSR and just a lot of other stuff, to where I was like, as long as they're doing their job, and I feel like that's where a lot of business owners probably get stuck, is because it's like, well, they're doing what they're supposed to. And they were. I mean, it was hilarious because when I went to fire them, they seemed like a little bit confused, because like I wasn't doing anything like terribly wrong, but also I know that I'm not good. So no, that is the reason I didn't feel bad about firing anybody when hiring the new people. Sorry, I started that wrong. We had 5 people. Obviously they had to go in order to bring in additional people. When I was firing the old people, because that's a part of hiring process, usually you're either fired somebody or they quit. That's why you have to hire someone, or you're just growing and you need to hire more people. But when firing the other ones, I realized like they just didn't really care. And that alone told me like, well, I know if I were to like be presented with, hey, you need to get your crap together, otherwise you're going to get fired, like I would snap into shape, right? And if that person doesn't, I mean, you put it to me perfectly, like if you could kind of care less if they quit tomorrow, you should probably fire them. You should probably get a better employee. The issue was I didn't know how to get better employees, because last month, I mean, I hired, I think 9 people, and the turnover was insane. Now that's also construction. That's also the industry. People, come in and out, they leave. That turnover is just going to be there. But I mean, replacing the team twice in an entire month of 5 technicians, that's a little extreme. But it's because I would be like, I was now starting to focus on they weren't doing the right efficiency. They weren't getting jobs done quick enough.
So you
Everybody
found a
was
way to measure them,
So I
their
found a way to
performance.
measure that. So that was the biggest thing. Like if you're not measuring your efficiency of your employees, and this all gets into the hiring process. I'm setting
Yes.
it up, right? Um, Before it was just like, okay, the job is done and we made money. The job is done and we made money. We got the new software. It now started showing me their efficiency rate. This guy's 60% efficient. This guy's 40% efficient. This guy's 80% efficient. This guy's 210% efficient. And I realized, so the efficiency, long story short, if we estimate a job to take 4 hours, it takes them 4 hours is 100% efficient. So the goal is 100%, right? What that means is we were paying everybody way more than what they were worth getting jobs done, because if it was a 4 hour job, it took them 8 hours. Because if they're 50% efficient, 60%, long story short, they all sucked ultimately. Yeah. They weren't great. So I thought, how do I bring on better talent? You and I had a conversation about, pay plan, trying to figure out some kind of incentivized pay plan. A lot of other handyman companies, big ones, Mr. Handyman Ace, everybody just pays by job. It's the easiest thing to do. Hey, we'll give you 25% of, the net profit or whatever, or 30% net profit, whatever it was. And that's simple, but the industry, the technicians don't like it because of the uncertainty. They don't know how many jobs are going to get done. How long am I going to have to drive to go to that job? So that's why people were leaving those companies to come to our company, was because we paid hourly. So I thought, well, I can't change the hourly because that's why they want to come work for us, but I can't just keep paying people at this flat rate, which all we could afford was like 25 an hour in my mindset. And I was like, I'll never pay more than 25 an hour. I just can't afford that. And then I thought, okay, what if we created an efficiency pay plan, which is what we did. And it worked incredible. So basically it incentivizes them to work faster, get jobs done more efficiently. And what did we say last week? We paid out 22%, I think 22 or 23% to labor. The week before that, when we had our old team, we paid out 37% to labor. Yeah. So immediately, that's, what is 37 minus 22? 15?
Yeah.
Immediately 15% of that goes right to our bottom line. So I immediately get excited because I'm like, that means next month we have 15% to play with on profit or expenses or whatever. And it was just like, wow, okay, let's boost this. So then we tried it out on 1 or 2 employees, and they were great. The hires were awesome. We offered them the new pay plan. We also implemented about a dozen questions that we ask, that if there's kind of answers that they say incorrectly or just don't sound confident in, like it's immediate no. And the reason for that, which is me actually picking and choosing, as before, 2 people applied and I was like, yes, 2 people want to work for me, right? Like, I'm building a company. People want to work for me. Come on, let's go. We're all going to make money together. Whereas now it's like, I don't have to hire the first 2 people. If somebody calls and somebody just called me on the phone. So if somebody applies and they think that they're the best or whatever, before I would be like, okay, well then I'll give you 30 an hour. Or I would, talk to you, be like, well, could we give this guy 35 an hour or whatever? And now that we have a pay plan that just pays people on a weekly basis of what they're worth. Hey, you did great this week, you get more money. You did bad this week, you get less money. Pretty straightforward. And then we kind of dove into the hiring questions, what do you call it? Weeding out. I've never done it before. I've never weeded the applicants out. Now that the applicants are weeded out, we're hiring people who we want. It is 10 times better.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So you first identified that you came to the realization that every business owner eventually has to come to, which is hiring just anybody is a terrible strategy and plan.
Terrible strategy. Don't ever do it.
Yeah, we did it. We had people who costed more to do the job than we made off the job. So we were losing money by them just working.
Yeah.
But the only way you know that is we adopted Service Titan, and so we started getting job efficiency scores, and so we got way more uh, insight and clarity into everybody's performance.
Yeah.
So
Wouldn't have known that without that.
yeah, before you just thought like, okay, hey, I mean, he spent a couple, sure, 4 to 6 hours. That's 2 extra hours. What is that? But
Yeah.
4 to 6, that's a 50% increase in hours
Yeah.
from what was originally estimated. That's bad. So you came to the fact that like, hey, hiring just anybody is bad. And then from
hmm
there, you mentioned two things that you did differently. The first is you came up with a compensation plan.
Yep.
Why was the compensation plan so important, do you think, in the hiring process?
That was the
What did that do?
biggest part of that was it opened up the potential to better talent. So before, if we had it listed at 25 to 30 an hour, the 35 an hour guys weren't applying. They
Yeah.
weren't coming to us, period. Well, those are the guys we want because those are the guys that we can scale with. But I
Mm-hmm.
don't want to pay 35 an hour. I can get people to, I can get people to work for 25 an hour. Why would I pay
Mm-hmm.
someone 35 an hour? So we created that plan in order for them as part of being a business owner. I'm still at the stage of constantly my phone ringing. So just deal with that in a couple of the podcasts, I guess. I did just mute it though. You get to the point to where you just realize I can't afford to keep paying cheap people.
Yeah.
You talked about this too. So the second we did that, it unlocked the potential of new applicants that we've never touched before. We've never seen
Mm-hmm.
this quality. Their resumes even looked better. Construction people don't have resumes flat out. They don't even
Yeah.
have them. When I started seeing resumes, I was like, holy crap, this is different. So that was I would say the biggest key to it was getting a different type of person to apply rather than just the person that was like, I'm just looking for an easy job. Whereas
Mm-hmm.
the other guys are like, I know I'm good. I know I'm worth it. Who wants me?
Yeah.
That's the biggest part of the compensation plan.
Yeah. It's almost like have you heard of the Pareto distribution?
Mm-mm.
So the idea behind it is that within any system, any population, any company, 20% of the people or tasks contribute 80% of the um, benefit or work being completed. And
Oh
80% of
wow.
the people contribute to 20% of the work being completed. And what I've found in my experience, and I've hired and wasted a lot of money, several hundred thousand, if not $1 million at this point, in just wasted payroll from hiring the wrong people.
Yeah.
And what I found in hiring them is that the Pareto distribution also applies to employees. The top 20% of the employee pool will be able to do 80% of the work within your company. And so, how
hmm
can you stop hiring in the entire, how can you stop fishing in the entire pond? And how can you find the section where that 20% hangs out and drop your line there? So, you're only getting people from that 20%. And the 20% of those people, like you said, they know they're good. They know they're valuable, right? They can, especially if you're in the trades, they know they can probably go and do the business themselves. But maybe they
Yeah.
just don't want to because they don't want to deal with the phone calls, they don't want to deal with sales, they don't want to deal with
Yeah.
customer inquiries, all that sort of stuff, taxes, they don't want to deal with it. But they know they could. And so you need a bait that's worthy of a 20 percenter biting onto the hook. And
Yeah.
so that's what I feel like that compensation plan did is it offered the opportunity. Basically, the compensation plan was the more efficient they did a job, the more they got paid per hour.
Yeah.
And so if they were really bad and they had a 40% job efficiency rate, they got paid less. If they
Yeah.
had a 120% job efficiency rate, they got paid a lot more.
hmm
And so winners win and losers lose.
Yeah.
And so the winners see that and they see the opportunity to make way more than the industry average. And so that is that bait worth biting, at least for
Yeah.
us in our industry.
For sure.
But then from there, of course, you'll still, right? The bait is so enticing that you will still get the 80 percenters biting onto your bait.
Yeah.
So the second thing you had mentioned is the follow-up questions.
Yeah.
And the way that I see those questions is that's your way to, after all these fish have, latched onto your bait and you're pulling it up, how can you very quickly see this one's an 80 percenter, this one's a 20 percenter? I'm going to get rid of these 80 percenters.
For me, one of the biggest things that I started with was anybody that answered the phone by going, yo, I hung up.
Yep.
And I marked them as
Sorry.
X.
Yep.
Immediately, no. So if you're out there looking for a job right now and you're applying to places, don't say, yo, because unless you're applying to a vape shop or something, I don't know. But don't do that for a professional entity. Because the second that they would do that, I'm like, that's how you're going to answer the phone when a client calls you.
Yeah.
And that's not how we operate.
Mm-hmm.
That was the first thing. Honestly, and it's crazy. I think this is just this industry. 50% of people I hung up on within the first 5 seconds.
Yeah.
I would say 40 applicants, 20 of them I immediately hung up on. And it was because there is a lot of those people that are still taking that hook because they're like, I'm that good. And they literally might be that good, but they don't have the professionalism aspect of it. So once they get past that, which is an immediate big weed out, then I just follow up with the additional questions. And there's about 12 of them that just let me get to kind of know them. The nice thing about that is it's all over the phone. I can do it from the road. I can do it walking down the street. I can do it on a job site. I don't have to do an interview. And I can still weed out 80%, 90% of the people to where then when I get to the next process, okay, I weed them all out with the questions. Now I get to the next process of I'm going to do a virtual interview. I'm still not meeting you in person. I'm going to do a virtual interview with you. And in this industry, that's weird. People don't like just let me come work on the job, boss. I'll tell you how good I am. And it's like, no. So the next thing I do in that one, kind of like the phone call, if they answer, yo, if they show up into the virtual meeting, I haven't done this a lot because I think because of the pre-screening questions that I'm asking on the phone are good now. I've done it a couple of times though. If they show up in the virtual meeting and they look unprofessional, as in like they're in just terrible clothes and they're matted hair or whatever, and like all of that. I hate to say don't judge a book by its cover, but all of our clients do that. Everybody's going to judge you the second you walk through the door. So there have been a few that have like they've popped up and I'm like, no, gone. And I don't know if that's like the most professional thing to do, but I've done it just because I know I've got 38 more applicants that I need to do these interviews with. And I don't want to waste my time on somebody who's more qualified.
Yeah.
So that's the first one on the virtual. And then I ask them project-based questions. So the first 12 that I did on the phone are more like personal questions. What's your experience? What's this? What's that? Then in the interview, I give them, how would you do this? How would you put in a back door? How would you fix this flooring issue? How would you do that? And if they walk me through it, then essentially, okay, now let's go to the next step. So we're good to go. You did perfect on that. You did great on the phone calls. Now we're going to do an on-site interview. Now you meet the lead handyman. Now you go out, you do a job. And if that job goes good, you're hired. Congratulations. So I feel like now that we went from, oh, somebody applied, let's hire them because we need guys, to, oh, somebody applied, let's call them. Let's figure out what kind of person they are. Okay, now let's weed them out and let's put them into a virtual interview. Now they look professional. They present well. Now we put them on a job. We do an on-site interview. We make sure that that goes great. I will say now that we do on-site, because we've always done on-site interviews, but it was more like, oh, you sound awesome. Sounds like you know what you're doing. We're going to do an on-site. And I just went right to it. And then we had people like no showing constantly. I haven't even told you this, but like the past 7 on-sites we did with the entire new team, nobody didn't no show. Everybody was on time. They were actually there early. They were dressed professional. We don't even have uniforms for them yet because it's just an on-site interview. But every single one of them showed up in a polo, nice shorts, and did work efficiently. And I was like, oh my gosh. I mean, our lead handyman was like, thank you so much. And here's what's crazy. And this is what like the biggest thing to all of this is our lead handyman then told me, because he should be able to handle about 6 to 8 technicians. He immediately goes, I know I can now, if you give me this quality of technician, I can handle probably 12 to 14.
Yeah.
So we just increased him and increased his entire team by whatever percentage that is.
Yeah.
6 to 7 guys, or 6 to 8 guys to 12 to 14 guys immediately, almost doubling his team. which means we don't have to pay another person to do that. Whereas before we thought we're going to need 2 handymen to handle 12 to 14 guys.
Yeah.
We're going to need 2 lead handymen to handle that. Now that one guy can handle that same amount of people because those people are professional and get jobs done correctly, and he doesn't have to babysit them all day.
Yeah. That's the beauty of the 20%er employee is not only do you have less no-shows, like when you schedule them on a job, they just show up way more than the average guy.
Yeah.
They do a better job. Like the customer likes them more, especially in our industry. They do it faster. So they do it within the estimated time. They're not always, going over. But then they're just, because of all of that, they're way less work to manage. So
Yeah.
like if you're a business owner and you're thinking about how can I go from 3 to 6 employees because I'm already tapped out.
Look at your 3 employees you got.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
How much time do you have to spend with those 3 employees?
Yeah.
To make sure, are you constantly having to go back? Because I remember just 6 months ago, you or Henry were constantly having to go back to jobs, do reschedules, or people wouldn't do a job fast enough, and so you had to book it onto the next day, and then that shifted the schedule. And there's just so much additional administrative work and management work because just stuff was happening and going wrong. And
Yep.
so if the 20%er employee takes or has 90% less issues, that's 90% less issues for you to manage.
Yep.
Which means you can now manage 10 times the people for the same number of headaches.
Yeah.
And that's really important, especially when you're a smaller business around these revenue markers, sub-million, or even if you're above million.
Yeah.
This is important for just about every business.
Yeah. If you're looking to scale, if you're looking to grow, if you're not, then it's fine. Keep your current guys and you like them, That's fine. But if you're looking to grow, I would say one of the first things to look at is the team, is the people that you have doing the work. Because what I realized real quickly this week, we've done like the same amount of sales, but we've had about 50% of our week available, and we've done the same amount of sales. Same amount of revenue, same amount of sales, same amount of everything. But because we have a whole new team that gets everything done faster, all of these guys' efficiencies. So the first guys, 2 weeks ago or whatever, 50%, 60%, 70% efficiencies. All of these guys, thank God I capped the pay plan out at 130% efficient because they're at 200, 220, 190, 180. The worst efficiency we've had this week was 98%. And I was like, holy crap. Now at first I was like, I'm going to have to pay them all so much money, but they're doing it faster and less time. So I'm actually paying the same amount. I just realized that if I pay somebody for 30 hours compared to this guy at 40 hours, if this guy's more efficient at 30 hours, he makes the same amount of money as the guy at 40 hours.
Yep.
And I was like, whoa, okay, this is perfect. So a lot of our technicians have even said like, yeah, hey, I'm done early. It's a rainy day. I'm gonna head home, because they're happy because they know that they just capped out at their efficiency rate because they knocked that job out real quick, and they're gonna go take a nap for the rest of the day because it's gloomy. Whereas the other guys would have probably sat on the clock forever and tried to make the best out of it because they're only getting this amount per hour, and I'm gonna, milk my clock.
Didn't
And
you
now
have an employee admit that to you or admit that to
straight up,
Henry?
he 100% admitted to Henry that Henry's our lead handyman. You'll hear that name come up a lot. I just flat out told him, well, if the week doesn't have a lot of work in it, I'm just going to stay on this job longer so I get paid more.
Yep.
And I was
And
like,
how do you manage that? How do you manage
what?
that with a schedule or to like sell? Because like if that's the mindset of your employees, how do you know they'll be done by that day? Because their mindset might be, I'm
He
going to
wasn't. He
do
was
this from
never
1
done
day
on
to 2
time.
days.
He was always milking a clock. And then it just made me think, how many other guys were doing that that didn't tell us? Like, at least he was honest. I mean, then we were like, okay, well, you're fired. I think you understand why. And he's like, yeah, have a good one. Like, so it's just, look at your team, focus on your team. If you're looking to grow, I think that is like number one. You got to focus on that.